everybody? Welcome to another episode of It's Flipping Friday. Today, as we keep evolving and having this show, it's getting so much momentum and so many people liking it, we decided to release another segment. It's called the Flippin Classroom. The Flippin Classroom. I know a lot of people think flipping houses is about being out in the houses all the time and just looking at houses, but a lot of it is stuff that we do before we ever step foot into a rehab, into a property. And it's just knowing some of the things that if you don't, it could cost you with your money. And some people, they use their savings to flip a house. Some people borrow the money, and it's so important that you have some of these skills and knowledge. And people who work with us, that's what we think we bring to you. So today we want to talk about some of those things, and I kind of call it our top 5 profit busters, feast or famine. So basically the top 5 things that over the last 6 months and even years, they keep coming up as ways that people lose their profit. Nobody gets into doing a flip to lose money. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who flip properties don't make money, or they don't make anything significant that would make it worth it to them for the time and the effort that they spend. So we want to go over those today in the Flipping Classroom, so you can hopefully write these down, take notes. So some of you may know this already, but if you're thinking about flipping a property, you definitely need to make sure you heed some of these warnings, okay? So we'll go backwards. So the number 5 thing that we came up with is not doing inspections. A lot of people who flip a property feel they know properties and they're very experienced and obviously doing work in them, or they wouldn't be trying to flip, hopefully. But always do a home inspection. And there's so many reasons. So the one that just happened to someone about a week ago, they didn't do a home inspection. They got done with the flip, found the buyer. The buyer does their home inspection, and the septic failed. The septic was total crap.
Are you using puns?
It was no good. They did not budget in for a new septic. And so those of you who don't know, a new septic can totally bust your profit and your budget. And this is something they already had the buyer. Anybody who buys it is going to want it. They needed that. Another thing is code violations. When you have a home inspector, they're going to go through and they're going to look at things. It's just another set of eyes. You need someone to just have your back when you're doing one. So especially if you're not that experienced or you haven't flipped a lot, even if you have flipped a lot of properties, you should, when you're buying a property, think about very strongly getting a home inspection and having somebody else go through it. So code violations is another big one that comes up when the buyer of your flip does a home inspection. And then one more is just structural. Somebody, having somebody else go through and check the structural integrity of it. There's nothing worse than finding out something later like that. Again, these are big items that can cost quite a bit. So that's number 5. Number 4, not having enough money. And it sounds so silly, so simple, but this one is another big one. So number 4 is not having enough money, and I'm specifically saying the slush fund or the old money, okay? You need some money in case something happened, okay? So you have to account for that. You have to have a slush fund, usually 5 to 10% you want put aside above and beyond what you think it's gonna cost you to get the rehab done, because there's nothing worse than running out of money. I've been called way too many times to sell a property where the person has not finished the flip. They call me and say, I gotta get rid of it, I need to get out of it, get me what you can. Because they couldn't finish it because they ran out of money. So make sure, again, when you're doing this, that you have to budget for a slush fund. Also, cutting corners, the 3 C's. This is number 3. Oh, number three, the three C's. You can't cut corners when flips. And again, this comes down to either not having enough money or some other things that causing the person doing the rehab to start cutting corners, okay? The first one is code. Know what's code. You have to know what is code in the area and what has to be done. You can't wait until somebody else comes in and then something has to be corrected. It definitely costs way more to do it twice, okay? The second one is care. The person doing the work has to care about their work. You gotta be willing to sign your name to that. When you do a flip, it's like you're signing a painting or something. You have to care about the quality of what you're doing. And the people who don't do that and they cut corners in this aspect, it always comes to bite them, or it takes, away from any future business that they may have, because people are gonna know that they don't put any care into the work. Or if you're choosing a contractor, make sure that they care about the work they're doing. And the third C is client. You have to know your end client. You gotta know the person you're doing this for. What do they want? What's important to them? It's very different city to city, county to county. You have to know what is gonna be expected by that end client and make sure you're providing that in the property that you're, in the rehab that you're doing. So now we're down to number two. The number two thing is holding costs. You have got to make sure that you have this under control. What messes up holding costs? So what is holding costs? Holding costs is the amount that it costs you when you flip a property, the money. So the longer you have this outstanding, so if you took it from a 401k or you borrowed it or you took it out of your bank account, every day that money is not somewhere making you money or that somebody's charging you interest on that money, that is a cost. And too many people ignore that cost. So sometimes I'll be on a flip and their holding cost might be $100 a day. So every day that they take to get this property done, it's another $100. So what can make your holding costs go crazy? The flip takes too long to do. You planned on 6 weeks and it takes you 10 weeks. You planned on 4 weeks. The number one thing with time is people underestimate how long it'll take, or you gotta make sure you're moving along. The second part of holding costs is it takes you too long to sell the property. You have to be ready to go when the property's done. Every day it sits on the market is another day of profit lost. So again, when you're working with Team Taylor, we specialize in making sure we're marketing it throughout the time when you're flipping it through things like this. But make sure your holding costs don't get out of control. And the number one reason why we see that people's budgets get busted, their profits get busted, they don't have the ARV correct. They miss on the ARV. ARV is after repair value. When you buy your flip, you have to know what it is going to sell for and be very, very diligent in making sure this number is as close to what will happen as possible. This is again a strength of what we do here at Team Taylor is we work with our flippers to make sure they know when they do X, Y, and Z, this is what the market is saying the property is worth. And if you miss on this, the number one thing we hear is, well, I have to sell it for this because I have X amount of dollars in it. I've already spent this, so it has to sell for this. The market doesn't work like that. Frankly, the market doesn't care what you spent. It's worth what it's going to be worth. The appraiser doesn't care. They're going to say, hey, there's no other comps. You can't put marble floors in a two-family in an inner city where nobody else is selling for X amount. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope so, because this one over and over and over, you have to buy the property knowing what the after repair value is. So, I hope these helped. 5, not doing inspections. Number 4, not having enough money or slush fund. Number 3, cutting corners, the 3 C's, code, care in your work, and know your client. Number two, holding costs. Okay? Can't take too long to flip it, can't take too long to sell it. And number one, you can't miss on the after repair value when you're buying a property. Okay, so I hope that this has been helpful for you in the Flipping Classroom. We do have a bonus one because this one is just popped up literally this week. When you're buying a tax foreclosure, please know that could be a title problem for your buyer. So when you flip a property, if you're buying a tax foreclosure and you're going to flip it, the end buyer, if they're getting financing, it is very difficult for them to get title insurance for 2 years. So thank you for joining us for another episode of It's Flippin' Friday. As always, if you know anybody who's thinking about selling a property and maybe it needs to be cash or it's not in great shape, we'd love to come take a look at it. Or if you're looking for a property that has just been flipped and is a phenomenal buy for you, we can help you with that as well. So until next Flippin' Friday, see you later.